ask questions directly of the candidates. I'll introduce the rest of the committee. We have some of us here. Karen is vice chair. Pete Brown is going to be the timer today. Every candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and then he will hold up a yellow flag when there's 30 seconds left, and then your time will be up. Feel free, Karen will be roaming the audience, so feel free to raise your hand when you have a question, and she will come get your question from you. All right, we would like to give each candidate a brief opportunity to introduce themselves. Again, please be brief. So if you'd like to start, feel free.
Ready? Most of you probably know who I am. My name is Leif Henneke. I'm the current president of the board. This is the end of my 3rd year on the board. Prior to that, chair of the Lakes Committee and on the Lakes Committee. Before that, my wife and I moved down here in 2019 and have been pretty much in service one way or another in the community since then. Also belong to the Lions, woodworkers, been in the sailing club, just enjoy our life down here, and running for a 2nd term because there's work that got started that hasn't been finished yet, and I'd like to see it through. Spent 24 years as an Army officer, and we don't walk away from things when they're not done and not done to the standard. So that's why I'm running again.
I'm Tom Francis. I've lived in the community full-time for 3 years. My family has owned property here, the property we have, for almost 30. So I am currently serving as the chair of your finance committee. I've been married 36 years. I have 4 grandchildren, 1 on the way. And I think the message from me in this last event, community-sponsored event, is we talk a lot about the things that we want to fix. So those tend to be the negative things. That gets a lot of attention around this time, not inappropriate, but it's also important to point out that I would say probably 95% of my experience in this community is very positive. I love living here, wouldn't go anywhere else. And so I'm thankful for the 95%.
I'm TC Phillips. We've been living here since 2004, part-time mostly. I'm a retired Air Force officer, so we make sure things are done the first time. But sorry. So I've been on the ECC and then also the finance committee for a short period of time before I was brought up to the board when there was a resignation. But I just think I ran last year, missed it by a few points, a few votes, and I just think there's some things we can do better. So there's a lot of good things we do, and there's a lot of great people and volunteers, but I think there's some things we can do better, and they center around process, not necessarily people. So that's my view.
Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Nickel. Been married to my husband, Brian, for 31 years. We have 3 adult children, 1 granddaughter, and 1 on the way, due in September. I'm currently on the Finance Committee. I also serve on Fairways Committee, and I'm a liaison to the Environmental Control Committee. So I've spent the past 18 months attending every board meeting, attending not only my committee meetings, but several others to educate myself, to learn our processes, to meet new people, gather new ideas, and I want to help make things better in this community also.
It should be on.
Maybe not. Oh, okay. We all tease TC about we can make it better because we all seem to say the same thing. My name's Darcy Jennings. We bought our house in 2015, moved down here from Annandale in 2017. I was married for 45 years, but stopped counting at 42 as my husband had Alzheimer's and he didn't know who I was. So I thought it wasn't a good idea to keep counting. Anyway, he recently passed away and gave me a lot more time to focus on things I'd like to do around here. Been part of the pools committee for a number of years, pools and community, and recently just retired, so to speak, as the president of the Lioness Club.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking the time out on this nice Friday afternoon. I'm Holly Ferguson. I bought my home here in 2015 after leaving domestic violence, raising 2 kids here in this neighborhood. We came here for security, and it really was a blessing to be able to have a place close, not be able to uproot them that far. We just came from the Culpeper area, but it still provided us with safety and family. And I have now, these kids are grown and I have more time to donate to the community. There are lots of areas that need improvement, and I am a career nurse and I built a business from the bottom up, a very successful business. So I know how to make things done on a budget. I'm hoping to bring the voice of more members to the board's concerns and issues, and hopefully we can change the outlook of our community.
Thank you all. Just a little housekeeping. There's a cooler on the back table with bottled water. If someone would like a bottle of water, feel free. Also, when you have a question, raise your hand. Karen will come. If you could give us your name, lot, and section number, that would be great. All of this is being Zoomed today, so you can watch it later. It'll be on the Lake of the Woods website. So, first question.
Not everybody at once.
Dave Davies, Section 13, Lot 77. As you all know, we have serious water and sewer issues here at the lake and in Eastern Orange County in general. If you were elected to the board, what would you do to hold the RSA board and management accountable for providing clean water and reliable sewage services?
Feel free.
So I guess I'll step up and take that first. So I'm not really sure where our lines stand with how much pool we actually have with RSA, but I think putting foots on necks and holding them responsible for making sure that we have adequate water is definitely in order. So we would have to look into how to start that process. I am not sure if anybody else has anything to offer on that.
Our community is 58 years old, so infrastructure is 58 years old at least. And we are lucky to have a very responsive Orange County supervisor, and he does work with the RSA, and he's very open to listening to people from the community as well.
Dave, I would answer that. Yeah, I would contact my District 5 supervisor. And I would also reach out to people like yourself, who I know also is incredibly involved in RSA, and you attend every meeting and know we are holding them accountable. We have been able to make a few changes. They're Zooming their meetings now. They are hearing our voice and our concerns finally, I believe. What could the board do more? I don't have an answer off the top of my head for that. Attend meetings with you guys. We ourselves could attend more RSA meetings, maybe work on an outreach to them directly. But again, right now I'm very comfortable and confident in the supervisor and what he's doing and how he's holding them accountable and responsible, and people like yourself who go. I know Jack Simons has done the surveys with you. You guys surveyed all of the tanks around the neighborhood at one point, I believe. it was you and Jack Simons. But anyway, I would tap into people who have been involved and have a leg up on that. But you're right, a lot more work needs to be done.
I think the first thing, of course, I'm on the board, so it's a little unfair for me to answer this. So I know some of the things that are already happening from a meeting standpoint, but I think we need to understand what their plan is and how they're going to upgrade both the water and the systems we're talking about, the sewer systems, and then stay engaged with that program because, I mean, until we know what it's going to cost in the program and the project, I mean, we're going to have to just be involved. So, I mean, that's about all we can do right now until actually the project starts going.
What Darcy, Tracy, Tom, and Holly said. I mean, I agree with all of that. We have a good county supervisor. RSA doesn't answer directly to us, but we're a big customer for them. So we're an important voice. I would encourage everybody to keep that voice consistent and strong. And anything that we can do to support our county supervisor, I'm all behind that.
So we do have an aging infrastructure, both on the water side and the sewer side. And we've had examples of challenges with both. RSA is a public corporation. We are a Virginia non-stock corporation. We don't hold any sway over them any more than any other customer does. We happen to be a large customer. It is actually our county and our county supervisors and the board of RSA where our members need to apply pressure. There's currently an opening on the RSA board right now, and hopefully our District 5 supervisor will be able to get someone to replace Ted Voorhees, who was the county administrator and lived in our community. But before that, Lee Frame, who was previously on the board here, then was on the board of county supervisors and was the chair of the RSA board, was the last individual who lived in the community who was part of that. What we have done here recently is we actually brought RSA back to the table. I hosted with our interim GM a meeting in the Holcomb building where the GM of RSA came with his supervisor for Lake of the Woods, Joe Gonzalez, and they talked about their plan for the sewer system and how they're going to the 13 or 14 pump stations. And they're going to be letting a contract to bring in a design firm. And hopefully by this time next year, they'll be able to get started. But what we're doing is we're going to make sure that we hold them close. We're going to have to partner with them while we go through this process. 5 years, maybe more. 24 million right now, could be 30. As that whole process goes through, we're going to have to be in close coordination with them, and that's what I've affected.
All right, thank you. Another question?
I'm Jim Poole. I live in section 1, lot 313. Simple question. Why do so few people in our community bother to vote?
Who would like to tackle that? TC?
I don't know. The answer is too complicated to really give you a direct answer, right? There's a lot of reasons probably. Some of them don't live here. They're not engaged. They're just a non-vote, which is a no vote a lot of times, right? Especially for the referendums, but not for when you're voting here. I struggle with it. We talked about it last year after the referendums. We said, how do we fix it? You know, maybe section captains where you know your neighbors a lot better than you know everybody around the lake. Maybe we need to institute something where we can get the word out a little bit better within the neighborhoods. But I'm not sure there's really one reason for it. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
Anyone?
I don't have an answer either. I wish more people would vote and pay attention and realize the effect of their vote or the effect of not voting. But to increase participation, I don't know. Encourage.
Tom?
I think I would say that there is a lot of communication going on, but I think maybe we're not communicating to the people that aren't voting. Maybe it's younger families, they're very busy with a lot of other things. So I think we need to find other ways to communicate along with what we're presently doing.
Okay, Tom?
I agree with Darcy. I'm not sure we have a way that we communicate with members, and that's how we do it. It doesn't seem to reach everyone, and it's probably time to start trying some things that are different.
Lee?
So that's a really good question. We couldn't even pay people to vote last year. We offered $2,000 if we got over the threshold to get over the 50% plus one margin. That would have paid somebody's assessment pretty much for the entire year. We were giving away money, at least I think twice a week, or for two people each week just to vote. And we couldn't get people to participate. Went door to door, knocking on homes that hadn't voted yet with ballots in hand to make it as simple as we possibly could, right? While I was on the board, we added a new position, communications and member engagement manager. We've been doing more over the past couple of years to try and communicate on different platforms, whether, you've seen the improvements in lake currents, our e-blasts, the dish, the information radiators, the TV screens, and all our different facilities. We put and helped put a screen out here on the wall. The players use it when they have a show, and when they don't, we're putting up information there. We're pushing information out. The problem is people don't want to participate. This community was founded by folks that came out of, they either were or came out of the greatest generation. Then we went into the silent generation. Now we've got the boomers. And all those folks were more engaged in this community, as it's been demonstrated over the years, than where we are now. We are going to have to new approaches. The question is, I'm not sure how much we'll be able to do, and everything we do has associated with it.
All right, another question, please.
Newbig, Section 6, 88. We held a referendum 9 months ago or so where there was a capitalization fee that would have meant a significant reduction in the increase in our assessment. It received 2/3 of the voters that voted, but did not reach the 50% threshold. The Finance Committee made a recommendation to the current board to have a single issue referendum, and the board did not take that up. I'd like to know your views in terms of whether or not you would support a capitalization fee. And second, whether if you are elected to the board, whether or not you would move forward to have a single issue referendum. Thanks.
I'll go first.
Okay.
All right. Yes, we did. We got about 67% of the folks who voted in the affirmative for that. Just pulling some of the data from our local real estate powerhouse, the Licata Group. In 2024, there was 197 homes that sold. At the $2,075 last year, that would have been just a little over $408,000 that capitalization fee would have generated from people coming in to our community, not from people who were already here. We wouldn't be talking about an operating cash deficit right now if that had passed, right? We did put money, this current board, myself, TC, and the folks who were on previously, John, Gene, and others, we put money in this year. I believe it's $15,000 for a referendum to occur in the 25-26 fiscal year. With the transition for finance director, GM, and the challenges that we faced with other operational things going on, this board decided not to take it up in the remainder of this term that ends on Labor Day of this year. There's nothing that's going to preclude a new board from picking that up. And I would agree, if I'm there, it's one question. And I think Tom may have been the one that talked about doing it in front of paying your bill. Let's let everybody know what it's going to cost. And then if we do this, what it won't cost, and see if that moves the needle.
I'd like to say that the referendums seem to have the same people voting. And we need to find those that aren't voting in different ways. I'm still miffed by the fact that there was a prize if you voted. I missed that. I did vote, but anyway, but I think we need to go out. We need to do more, not necessarily door to door. The neighborhood watch idea is a great one. Finding people where they are. If it's concert on the point, if it's the Halloween treats where they're all lined up to come in. And we need to keep the referendum to one. And we also need to keep it very simple. I didn't understand the last referendums. I certainly do now, but I kept reading it over, trying to figure it out, asked other people, but it wasn't simple to understand exactly what it was.
Tom, to answer your question.
A capitalization fee, yes. And I do think that that would help our community, but I think it was misconstrued and people didn't quite understand it. I also agree with the past referendum that didn't pass about taking care of your yards and taking it, fining people as opposed to going through Orange County legal systems to which costs us a good bit of money to do. But again, I think it was misconstrued and not quite understood.
Tom, to answer your question, yes, I would. Spoke at a realtors group a couple of weeks ago, and their concern was we're one of the only neighborhoods around who does not use a capitalization fee. So yes, I would. And I share the same concerns. Keep it to one issue, write it more clearly, maybe a little more simply. I think the last three were a little overcomplicated in their wording. And I have suggested making the voting on a referendum at the time that we're all paying attention to our legal documents and our requirements to live in this neighborhood, and time it around when we're paying our HOA fees and make it available to pay or to vote on it then when you go to the Holcomb building.
I'll say, I agree with the capitalization as well. And as far as the referendums, they definitely were misconstrued by a lot of people. I think that's why we didn't have enough votes, because it was confusing. And especially if you are not privy to Friday afternoons at 2 o'clock to be able to attend meetings, it makes it very difficult for the majority of our community to make it because they're probably at work. So we need to make sure that the information is getting out. And this is kind of to your voting as well, sir. I think that more information, more friendly times where people can make it without having to take off from work will definitely benefit our outcome of getting those referendum votes and getting the votes in for board stuff.
Anyone else?
Tom, I would support a capitalization fee in the next fiscal year. It's very clear that we're now in the minority of HOAs for not having that. It's a very common tool. Most do, we don't, and we should rectify that. I don't think, however, though, that a capitalization fee and the revenue that it would generate have anything to do with a operating cash deficit from last year. Yeah, would have covered it, but the fact that we generated it at all is a separate issue that needs attention.
Lee?
I'll just have a point of clarification. Every referendum, there is a plain language write-up, but we are required to provide the legal wording that would end up going into our documents. So you can't just put a plain language version of a referendum question or amendment out there. It has to have the actual wording that would be placed into our documents has to be part of it.
Anyone else?
The answer is yes, I would agree with the capitalization fee. And again, I agree with Leif, just because everything that was going on this year and how bad it didn't happen last year, we felt like it was probably not a good time to try to do it again right after failing the last time. So we basically I think it was a good call not to do that, but I would support a referendum on that this next time.
I say one more thing about the referendum thing is that we would have to have a referendum to change the way we count our votes. And that's sort of a catch-22. If it was a simple majority, a lot of more referendums would go through. But again, you have to have a referendum to change that way of counting votes.
Thank you.
Jean Arnold, section 220, right? I wondered, is it legal to put a ballot in with the HOA assessment form that comes out and have people turn it in as they do their HOA fees?
I didn't clearly hear the question.
She said, is it legal to place the ballot in with the assessment form so that when they fill out their assessment, they also have the ballot?
Don't know the answer to that, but would it be too simple to think we could just have the box for the ballot in the Holcomb building and you would turn around, it'd be on the back wall and put it there, not necessarily part of not a requirement for your paperwork, but an opportunity to turn in your ballot there.
Lee?
Yeah.
One
I
of
think-
the things, oh, sorry, Lee.
I think it's really timing because I mean, a paper copy of the ballot comes out in late currents. You can actually cut that out, fill it out and turn it in. You can pick up a paper copy at the Holcomb building, sign it right there and stick it in one of the boxes. So I think it's more about timing of when the thing occurs and how we wanted to, you could mail one to everybody if you want to incur the postage expense of doing it. It's one of the reasons why we use Vote Now is so, it actually helps cut down on the cost of doing those types of things. But we certainly can. I doubt that our legal folks would tell us that that's not something that we couldn't do because we're not forcing you to turn it in. We're just providing it to you with other documents that we give you anyway.
Not everybody reads the paper. I mean, they throw it away, a lot of it, but if the first thing I do is open the thing up and see what our assessments are going to be. So if the first thing is the ballot, then maybe you'll fill it out, maybe you won't.
When you're looking through that packet of papers, it is a substantial packet of papers. And I agree with you, that would be great, but I think people aren't even reading what is already there. And I think we just need better ways to communicate and get to people to get these kinds of things done.
Another question?
Nobody else is gonna- Tom Newbig, section 6, 88. Bill, yes. In the last 6 months, 3 board members resigned for reasons unknown. Question to each of you is, if you are elected, will you commit publicly that you will serve out your term?
I do.
I agree with that too. And that's one of the things the nominating committee really stresses. If you are running, if you're elected, you will commit to finishing your term. I don't know why they left as well, but having 5 places to be changed on the board at once is not how it was set up. It's either 3 a year or 2 a year. So this is a little, it's not unprecedented. I believe it happened once before, but it does create a bit of a problem. You're really replacing most of the board. Also, I have to say, my lot and section is 1492. And it's very handy to have a number like that.
I was gonna jot down your lot and section number there for you, Tom, for your next question. Yes, I commit to serving my full term.
I think it's really not a really fair question because I think anybody that's running is going to say yes. I think the people that resigned before, if you would have asked them when they were running, would probably have said yes as well. So I appreciate the question and yes, but a lot of things happen in, with time, but yes.
I make the commitment here today. I think all of us would respect that serving on the board is not our number one priority in life. So, health of my own health of my family, some unforeseen incident could come up in the future that would cause me to have to step down from this. I don't have that crystal ball, but I will not quit because I don't get my way.
I'm still here. And if you think it's gotten any easier as folks have dropped off, and those of us remaining, Gene, John, TC, Bob, Larry Borland, to pick up the slack, it hasn't. But as I said in the beginning, there's still plenty of work to do. I have the time, I have the energy, and I have the commitment to stick to it as I have been. So yes.
Another question? Sure.
01313, simple question. What are you going to do about the geese?
That's actually a great question. I know that in one of the recent board meetings, they were talking about a good solution. So it's in the talks. I don't know that anybody has made a final decision. I did notice that they were all apparently shedding their flight leave feathers. So they've been easily to catch. And I don't know any of the laws. I'm not part of the wildlife team, but that's a great question because I was thinking the same thing. They'd be super easy to catch right now.
I've also heard that they don't like swans. Maybe if we had more swans, that would move them out, but I don't think that's the case. Keegan has been the new person, I don't know, is environmental person that was hired, has really looked into this as well. And I think what would help a little is on our beaches is making sure that we don't just redo the sand to make it look nice, but we actually have picked up. I know that's a whole lot of things that none of us would like to do, but it is a growing issue and it is something we do have to address, especially with the problems we've had this year.
I would definitely love to address the geese population. I believe Adeline is probably the most humane way to take care of this, to control the population. I don't know the details. I believe it would be up to lot owners to find the nest on their property and then call wildlife and have them do it. Or if we can be trained, maybe Deanna has a better explanation. I don't know exactly how that works. I don't believe as lot owners, we would be allowed to do that. But to me, that's the most humane way. It would probably take a couple of seasons for them not to repopulate. But that's the way I would like to see it done.
Anyone else?
I've already answered this question once and I said I was a hunter, but But we have to look at it. There's a number of different ways. Addling is one of them, but I mean, I think we have to look at trying to reduce the population here on the lake. We've got to be able to either move them out, catch them and move them to someplace else, but they've had the same problem at the golf course behind here, and they were able to get a license from the state. I think it's a federal to reduce some of them on the golf course because they were tearing up the golf course back there. So I do believe that that's part of our E. coli problem, you know, and I have seen them picking up the goose poop now on the beaches. I live right across from Cornwallis before they do the grading. So that's a start, but I'm convinced that that caused some of our E. coli issues that we've been having. But we have to do something.
So when I first read of this as a problem, my first telephone call was to Deanne, because I know that she's forgotten more about humane ways to deal with wildlife issues than I'll ever know. And her advice was egg addling. Am I getting that right? And there's some labor, of course, involved in getting that done, but that seems to be the way to do it. I will, in full disclosure, don't hate me, Deanne, but in full disclosure, my joke is that if we served a $4.99 goose special at the club, we could get more people to come to the club and take care of the goose problems. It's just a joke, Deanne, just a joke.
So, and you probably heard me kind of say the same thing. Over the years, the associations tried a number of different methods, addling being one of them. That's both labor and time specific in when it will actually function. They've had dogs in here. We've used sound cannons. We can attempt to thin the herd, but Mother Nature pours a vacuum. As soon as we get them all out of here, a new group will come in. One of the challenges is, you know, they like to be able to see around them. So if you take places where they can be ambushed away, they don't like to, you know, they want to be out somewhere where they can see a predator, and that helps to keep them from wanting to disperse as much. But it's a challenge that we're going to have. We are looking right now at labs that can do specific DNA type testing on our water samples for E. coli, and can potentially tell us whether it is goose related, whether it's bovine cow related, whether it's human related. We pay right now about $65 a sample for normal routine. It's got E. coli, it doesn't. For that genetic type testing, 7 to 10 day duration, $500 a sample. So if we want to do that, it's going to cost money. But we could, in some cases, prove a negative. Say, all right, well, it didn't come from RSA because it says it's from a goose, or it's from the cows on the other side of the fence, on the other side of Flat Run. So it isn't necessarily always going to be just one thing. And they really can't differentiate what percentage, you know, well, 50% is cows and 50% is geese.
I will say when my family was here over 4th of July weekend, my daughter was, no, we're not going into the water. That was fine. The pool was available. But my mistake was saying not saying we had E. coli, but I said we had Ebola. And she said, Mom, we're leaving.
Carol McDougall, Section 1, Lot 315. Some of you know I was part of a task force that looked into the after-action report for the clubhouse refresh project. I had the great pleasure of working with Bob Ho and Jack Simons, and I learned a whole lot in doing that project. I was at the clubhouse last night. We have a beautifully refreshed property that I think is underutilized. I encourage everyone to give it a shot. It is not perfect, but it is something that when you visit and you visit frequently, there's a sense of camaraderie there. that this neighborhood is known for, and I wish everyone could experience it. But my question is about the fiscal side of that project. We had a project with great intention that went over budget and over schedule. And unfortunately, we've had that pattern repeat itself with the Front Gate project and with Patrick Henry, to name just two. In the task force final report, we made some recommendations on what we think the board and management could do to mitigate the same kind of over budget, over time that we've seen continue to perpetuate in this community. I know not all of you have had a chance or an opportunity to read that report, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, maybe your top 1, 2, or 3 ideas when we embark on a capital improvement project, what we can do to ensure, and you are stewards of our money, that that project is handled fiscally well and benefits the community as matches the original intent.
Anyone?
I can take a shot at it.
Sure.
So Carol, thank you for participating in that after action review for Bob and Jack. There's a reason why I asked to have that done, is because to my knowledge, we hadn't done an after action review on a large scale project previously. And then the other two, similar, the special ad hoc committee for capital projects that just wrapped up hit on a number of similar themes around adequate project management and design and, a number of basic building blocks. Fundamentally, I think we've tried historically to do projects cheaper than they probably should have been budgeted and forecasted for. As an example, Patrick Henry Court, there wasn't enough geological study done to determine that we're basically sitting on bedrock. So almost that entire stormwater projects had to been chiseled out of solid bedrock in order to get the pipes laid in. The amount of geological testing that should have been done at the front gate to determine that we were on soils that couldn't be compacted enough to meet the VDOT standards to connect to their highway should have been identified ahead of time. So, the concept of doing a planning year or design year before we do an execution year is something that we need to do. But fundamentally, I think since I've been looking at large projects and I came on when AMT was doing their study, we've not, I think, been realistic with what these projects really were going to end up costing us, because we thought we could do it for less money. And we've been disabused of that a handful of times already. So we've got to go in with our eyes wide open and get the professional expertise we need to be able to help us get good budgets and plan good projects.
Mine is short and sweet. We need better planning and proper supervision over these plans.
Was at the ad hoc meeting when they wrapped up their work that they had done. And one of the recommendations was something that I think a lot of us have talked about because of the after action report from the clubhouse, is simply to have a project manager start from the inception of an idea all the way through. And if you have one person responsible, if your GM steps down, your board changes, you still have the consistency of a project manager. May not be a LOWA person. It may require somebody from the outside that is a little more versed in what the specific project is, but it's a good way to prevent some of these problems.
What got me interested in running for the board was I ran into a couple of issues and I didn't like the outcome when I searched for answers. And learned a good lesson, and I made a lot of assumptions that, of course, somebody's watching over that, somebody's taking care of that. Of course, the right thing is going on. I will tell you, I spend every evening with my laptop open and I've read every governing document, resolution, policy. That's all I spend my time doing. I've learned quite a bit. A troubling thing I found, and in capital projects, I agreed overall, and I was really happy to read their final report. Yes, we need a project manager from beginning to end. We need to do better research before we start. We need incentives to finish early. We need penalties if you go over. I agree with all of that. The troubling thing is a lot of this stuff is in there. We had a policy for this. We had a QSM policy. Somewhere along the way, we dropped the ball and stopped holding ourselves or our contractors responsible. And that is what I'd like to change. A really troubling one I found was going back to, I think it was 2013, and I have to look at my notes. The general manager, we made him our chief procurement agent. That was a really bad idea, I thought. And it shouldn't be done by one person, and it certainly needs a committee. And my time is up. Oh, I still have 30 seconds. I've lost my train of thought now. It's like, I'm finished with that, and we can do better. We can do it better. I agree with all of their suggestions. I look forward to sitting down with a few people and getting the right policies and practices in place. Maybe one capital project at a time. Let's freeze everything until we get a thoughtful, now my time is up, committee going and take it from there.
That ad hoc committee did an incredible job and finished on time and quickly. And Jack Simons was presiding over the meeting yesterday, and he had his Boy Scout uniform on. So that just gets the right tone for the meeting.
As I said earlier, I think a lot of the issues that we have are process oriented. The way we set up our budget, the way we bring in new capital projects, we don't give ourselves enough time to really do the engineering analysis up front to make sure that we're ready to go and we got current and accurate pricing and everything. So I think what they're coming back with, the capital projects team, I think is good. But there's a lot of things that need to happen. We need to finalize the policy that we have right now, the current procurement document that we have, but because it's in draft form right now. So we need to finish that up, but I think we just need to have gates. We need to look at each project from a gate process. We have great ideas, a new asset capability we want to move forward. We look at it, we give it a price, but we really haven't done the in-depth pricing analysis on it. So we need to spend time doing that before we actually move to actually executing the project. Right now, we're trying to do everything in 1 year, and that's difficult.
Pete doesn't have enough yellow cards for us to have this conversation to the degree that it needs to occur. Carol, I think anybody who pays attention to that report would have to agree that the number of errors, mistakes, omissions, faux pas just spells a real problem. And we really shouldn't sugarcoat this or whitewash it. We really just need to face it head on, take responsibility for what happened in that case, that project. And make sure that we put controls in place to make sure it never happens again. And then that is a very long conversation and meeting.
So a couple of the things that you've heard people talk about had never happened around here before. We didn't use special ad hoc committees to go after points of pain in our community. But since I've been on the board, we've established several to do that. We hadn't done after action reviews like I asked the team to put together. We didn't do that kind of introspection. Remember, your board is designed by its very charter to deal with policy issues, not operational issues. So it's the staff that has to do the executing. And we've been looking to make improvements in bringing staff in who can help us. We didn't have a capital projects manager until the board session, the board session that I was on, right? We identified that we needed somebody. The problem is we only have one. And that gentleman can't do 17 projects at the same time. Because at the same time, we're doing large capital projects. Well, we still need to make sure that bathrooms get painted and, HVAC systems get rotated out, all the things that go on with the annual purchases that we make as part of the repair and replacement reserve. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I voted to only do one capital project last year. I was one of two people. Myself and Vasa were the only two folks that voted to only do either Patrick Henry or the front gate, not the two together. Was not in the majority. The majority rules, and we went with two. And that was more than we had the capability to execute. So I feel very strongly that we have to look and determine what are those things we can do ourselves and what are those things we need outside professional help to do. It's going to take more time and it's going to cost more money, but in the long run, we should end up with better results.
All right, Daniela tells me there are people on Zoom that would like to ask some questions. So for people that are on Zoom and want to speak, we would like your name, lot, and section number, please.
Balsa, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, thank you. First of all, I am one of the board members who has resigned past last spring. And I just want to tell you that I'm very excited about the new board members. All of you sound great, enthusiastic, and dedicated. I hear that you want to work as a team. And I think that's a great idea. However, I do have a question for each and one of you. Should your president come to you and put an NDA in front of you that you know does not serve the best terms for the association, what would you do?
I think what she's asking, and I hope I don't paraphrase it wrong, but if if the president of the board brings an idea forward and the rest.
No, an NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
And with an NDA.
If the president of the association brings a non-disclosure agreement for you to sign individually, and you don't support it, what would you do?
Or does she mean the GM?
But no, I think she's talking about the board president. So
Association?
I may be making it a little more complicated since you have not served on the board. So, well, some of you probably understand what a non-disclosure agreement is, correct? It's a contract. It's an agreement that is not supposed to be disclosed to outside the board. In reading that agreement, you disagree that it serves the association. You're having to sign that. What would you do? Would you sign the non-disclosure agreement?
Vasa, I think that's a good question. I don't understand the circumstances about that specific. So I can't really answer with the information that I have.
Hypothetically, if you were asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, that anything you discuss as the board
is not revealed to the rest of the community.
So that's against the
What's your
law.
Take on it.
I can answer. So it's against the law. In open session, it's defined in the law what has to occur in open session. There are select things that the law permits to occur in executive session. Those things are issues of a private matter with members. Those things are issues of private matters with payroll. And they are contract negotiations that would harm the members if the information before a contract was finished got out in the public. So those are all appropriate things, and I don't think most reasonable people would have an issue with them. So I would sign an NDA for those things. If somebody asked me to sign one on something else, I just won't do it. It's against the law.
So there are matters, as Tom just talked about. There's a whole section in the Virginia Property Owners Association Act that lists the things that can be talked about during executive session. There's 3 or 4 that are kind of the routine ones, but I think the total list is somewhere 8-ish or something like that of different things. The bottom line is, if somebody comes to me with an NDA and I don't want to be burdened by being bound by it, I don't have to sign it. I also don't then get to look at or be told that information, but I can opt out and just say, no, I don't want you to share that information with me, and I won't have to sign an NDA. That's the simple part of it. There's nothing that's done around our operations that does not meet the requirements in the VPOAA around the confidentiality for things that are, of a legal nature, contractual nature, personnel nature, whether that's a member or staff. All of those things are protected in accordance with the state statute.
I actually have given this some thought, and sought legal counsel, not my spouse, but a separate, a separate legal counsel just for situations like this. I don't know what happens if I were to be elected, but if the first thing I was given an NDA, said, you need to sign this now that you're an elected board director, I would say, no, I will not sign that. And I would ask for the legal reasons or their legal standing in asking me to do that. And then I would take it to the person I have on retainer and seek their advice.
My answer is almost identical to Tracy's. The issue is I want to become a voice for the members and make sure communication stays open for all members. So signing NDAs sounds like secrets, and we're not happy with that. So
I'm going to give the weapons school answer, and it depends. Because just like Tom and Leif said, there are conditions sometimes where you may have to sign it to protect people and the association. So it depends. Certainly, there's everything that goes into open session. There's not a requirement for an NDA. So, I mean, if that's what Vasa was concerned about, the discussions in open session, there's no requirement for it. So, yeah, again, it depends on what the topic is about and what they're asking me to do.
And just a point of clarification, there is no ND, there's no broad, open-ended NDA that anyone was asked to sign when you join the board. If something like that was dealt with, it is for a particular set of circumstances around a particular event or an individual.
Daniela, was that the only one on Zoom? All right, thank you. Anyone here?
Can't let Tom Newbig outdo me. Dave Davies, Section 13, Lot 77. I appreciate the work of the Clubhouse Refresh After Action Ad Hoc Committee, but I think they missed something at the very beginning. I've talked to a lot of people who've been here for years and years and years, 30, 40 years. And I think the demographic and the socioeconomics of the community have changed considerably. And I would contend that the decor, the menu, and the pricing at the clubhouse appeals to a tiny percentage of Lake of the Woods members. And so I would ask you, do you agree or disagree? And if you agree, what are your ideas for making it more appealing to the great unwashed like myself?
Mr. Davis, I'll take that first. I agree with you 100%. Raising kids in the community, it kind of felt out of place for an everyday, a Tuesday night dinner. We need to make it appealing so that all families are feeling welcome when they come there. And there are different ways to do that. I have not attended the committee meeting for the clubhouse. I'm going to be completely honest about that. I have not. But I intend to, and there are lots of ways to make that clubhouse work and be more open to the majority of our members, which are raising kids 65 and under. We need to get them in there, a more family-friendly environment, and then do proper targeting to get them out there. We need to have a wing night special or a pizza night special or something like that to draw in those members that are not showing up, not coming to meetings, not using our amenities.
That's a great question, Dave, and I have a ton of ideas for that and actually engaged in a number of conversations about our clubhouse. And the definition of clubhouse as a place for your community to gather. I don't want it to be just a place for dinner on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I want it open to the entire community. I would love to open that clubhouse every single day of the week, Monday through Sunday, set hours. I believe that's the problem we have with Fairways and the clubhouse. Consistent set hours. So I don't have to go, is it Monday? And is the clubhouse open at 8 or close it? Does Fairways close at 2? Set hours for both restaurants. So I know every day what time I can go, what's available. We took away that trophy room from a lot of clubs who use that trophy room, and our clubhouse sits empty. Open that up. 10 to 6 every day. Go in. I don't care what you play. Cards, puzzles, mahjong, do whatever you want. Sit on the deck, sit inside. We could offer a simple half a sandwich and soup if somebody so desired. Just give it a try. See if we get a draw in there. I've talked to people who we think we can make that happen. Use that bottom for youth. Put a pool table down there. Let them have a DJ party down there on Friday and Saturday night. Let them know they can go down there and it's their dance place. I don't care what they do down. Play games, play bingo. I think there are a lot of things we can do differently, and we need to try different because we keep trying the same thing over and over and it's not working.
My understanding is the refresh, which I think looks fine, is more to attract events like weddings. And that's understandable because that's a moneymaker. But it's a little cool. It's not as warm and welcoming as the living room you used to sort of walk into. However, there are ways to enhance that with the activities that Tracy's talking about. Make it more friendly to use. And that would be very helpful to all.
So I have a little bit of benefit of being on the ad hoc food and beverage committee right now. And we've broken it into 2 subcommittees to look at both Fairways and the clubhouse. And all the things you're talking about are being looked at right now, including a communication plan to get out to all the people. So there's a lot of things that they're looking at, trying to open up for lunch on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, trying to increase the hours. So they're looking at everything, but they can't do it quickly because they're within their budget right now and they're already over. So they have to do it in a very, dedicated manner, and it may not happen until the next budget. So there's a lot of things they're doing right now, trying to improve the service trying to improve everything. They're going out. So there is a plan. It's going to be briefed, I think, on the 20th of August, that the food and beverage directors are going to come in and provide their execution plan. We're looking at things that are going to make their job easier. We're looking at tools that will help them both for reducing costs when it comes to ordering food, making sure they can do all those things, those tools they didn't have. So we're trying to make that possible right now. So all that will be briefed on the 20th at the next board, not tomorrow, but the next board meeting after that. So there's a lot of things that are going on. I don't want you to think they're not. They are happening, and there's movement towards executing that plan.
So I've listened to, I'm also on the ad hoc committees. I've listened to a bunch of different ideas over the last couple of years, and being on the finance committee, we've watched the numbers creep up month after month, year after year, and very little is done by management to curb their budget. It's almost, well, lots of things have been tried here, and we've taken a lot of swipes at this. We now need to do, I believe we need to do something different. We need to go in a different direction with it. The losses that it has are unsustainable. And what needs to be really clear to membership is that when it goes over budget, it consumes money from something else. And that something else tends to be the things that we're now saying we need to pay attention to, like ditches, roads, and things like that. So this is related to other things, and we have to solve this problem, and we have to stop trying half measures. It's time to do something significant that's different.
And I mentioned that the Pools and Community Committee runs bingo for families. And it doesn't cost anything to go, no gaming license, no whatever. The prizes come out of the pool's budget, which are gift cards. And we have been trying to put together 2 specific dates, one especially for the fall, to have a bingo night on a Friday or Saturday. Again, it attracts families. It's very good about that. And the clubhouse does get food service going. And we have been told that there's no Friday or Saturdays available because they need to be open to other banquets, weddings, whatever that may come along. And to me, that's a little backwards. It's our community. We're trying to bring families into more activities. Then to me, that should be a priority. Yes, it's great to make money on weddings, but I don't want to sit back and say, "Oh, we have that date, but we have to give it up because we can't do a family activity."
So the issue with food and beverage is not really dissimilar from the issue that Jim brought up around voting, right? We've spent an awful lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of efforts, a lot of brain power on our food and beverage operations. I would love to see us do other things there as well. Also realize, though, the reason why we have a community activities and pools committee is because we couldn't keep enough members to keep community activities for our kids running. So we had to combine those 2. If we do anything, we have to make sure that we have insurance. So we can't just toss them downstairs and let them to their own devices. We'd have to actually have somebody monitor that. So that comes with a cost. It might be interesting. I'm aware of a large community up in Northern Virginia that just got told that their food and beverage, which is outsourced to the second different outsourcing entity, is running about a $900,000 shortfall. They are a much more homogeneous from a socioeconomic perspective and home value perspective than our community is. They've tried 2 different outsourcers and haven't been able to find a solution for them that works. I agree. We have to keep looking for solutions, but we cannot divorce the membership from being part of that solution. It's no different than trying to figure out why we can't make people vote, right? If we want these facilities to stay open, we as a community have to be invested in trying to make that happen. And if we're unwilling to do that, then the community needs to say so and quit trying.
Heidi Brown, Section 2, Lot 269. First of all, thank you all for running for the board. You need to put your tray table up and buckle your seatbelt because it's a bit. I spent from October until March as a lioness and the incoming LGA president trying to resolve dinner pricing and lunch prices for those groups, as well as Lions and AARP and Low Link and a lot of other stuff. My concern now, since I just saw another invoice, is there's a column on all of these invoices, and I don't mean to be picking on the clubhouse, but since we're talking about them, I do have a big concern. So there's a column on all of these invoices that says subsidized. So we're not being charged for the rooms, but somebody's being charged for the rooms. There's an accounting of the charges for the rooms, $250 per room. There's an accounting for various things. Now there are things, linen fees have been added, cleanup fees have now been added, in addition to the service charge. So what I think might be happening is in December, when some of you all are on the board, and we're starting to build our budget for the following year. In those budget hearings, when it comes time for food and beverage to discuss what they made, what they lost, and what the foreseeable future is, all of those columns from all the different entities that were subsidized by the HOA is going to get tallied and I think leveraged to the association, meaning us as members. Is that about what you all think? And if so, how are you all as prospective board members, how do you think you're going to deal with that?
You want to take that first, or you want me to go?
Feel free. Go ahead.
Heidi, I'm sympathetic to that whole plight. I've watched it from the finance committee since it began. My position in the beginning and remains today is there's a fundamental problem with how the club is managed. And because of that fundamental problem, the cost structures are just way too high. And that's what gives us a $40 hot dog. You don't really care how we get to $40, but we do, and we care that it is $40. Whether or not who pays part of that, eventually all of us pay anyway. And I think it's unfair to have the entire community subsidize a hot dog. That's really what it comes down to. So the problem is we got to get down and solve the cost structure problems. And then when we do that, the hot dog won't cost $40, and the room charge, when all of the things are added up, the hot dog will cost what a hot dog should reasonably cost. And then we'll be okay. The answer is, how do we get there? And I can't tell you, other than to say what we're doing now isn't it. And the half measures we've tried in the past isn't it. And the finance committee has tried a couple different ways to call attention to this, and they have failed. So that's why I'm here.
I have to say, I understand what Heidi's talking about, because the Lions, the Lioness, Child Help, all experienced 8 months of trying to work out specific prices for the monthly meetings that we do have. So that was 8 months of wasted time in the fact that most of these were 501c3 groups that give to the community. And that time was then spent doing that as opposed to helping the community. It also, I don't completely understand how I can go to a restaurant around here and I don't have a cleanup fee. I don't have a bar setup fee. I have a price for the meal, period. And it's reasonable. So where are we going wrong that we're now tacking on these specific numbers? And that is then pricing out the use of some of the facilities.
I think it's unfair to place the blame for money being lost at the clubhouse on the members. I believe it's a management issue. I believe it's a labor issue. I believe we've said it over and over. Good food, good service at a good price, and that'll bring us all back. Ask us what we want. Pizza seems to be something popular, a pizza oven, a child's menu. I don't believe a subsidy is a bad word or a bad thing. An $800,000 subsidy is a bad thing because that could be used somewhere else. But it goes back to community. These groups, Lioness, AARP, Lions, they go there, they've been going there for years for community. And if $45 is out of reach for some of the Lionesses, that I would support a subsidy of $10 for 30 of the Lionesses. That's what I believe a subsidy is for, to allow them to have their evening out with their friends and build their community.
So Heidi, I'll answer your question. That subsidy column will end up being tallied up so that the association can, and by association, I mean all the members, understand what the delta is between what it costs to produce the meals and the services that everybody wants to use and what the consuming entities actually paid for it. In a restaurant, the menu drives the cost. A $40 hot dog certainly sounds sensational, but it isn't really just a hot dog for $40. But the real issue is, if you want it to be cheaper, then we have to change the menu. If all you want is a $40 hot dog for $4, then we don't need cooks. We'll get one of those electric roller things, and that's how you'll get your hot dogs. But you're not going to get a nice sit-down dinner that you could go outside the gate and get. And the price for a lot of the things that you see on a bill here are wrapped into the cost that you pay in other restaurants, right? We're not really doing anything that other places aren't doing, but foundationally, we've got a lot of costs to cover here, and we don't have the entire Fredericksburg Culpeper community to help subsidize or patronize, this facility. We can make changes. We absolutely can. No board has done more to shine a light on what's going on in food and beverage than this one has over the past several years. Anybody go back and find out when we brought in an outside consultants to look at it, made the investments in fixing and repairing things that we found that were broke, that had been that way for years, right? So a lot of work's been done. It isn't all done, and you're going to make some changes, and the community's going to have to tell you if you're making the right ones or not.
Another question on Zoom, Daniela.
Can I
Oh,
just,
I'm sorry,
just
TC.
add a couple things?
Finish.
So this is a complicated issue, and Heidi, I appreciate the question, but the way we work under a budget, and then there's a set subsidy that we support the club at. So we're tasking these directors to operate under a certain budget that they're doing. So they're driven to certain cost. And obviously, there was discussions about what you're talking about. I was involved in some of the emails, but those are issues that we're talking about in the ad hoc food and beverage committee. We're trying to deal with those things, but it's not an easy solution because we're not buying bulk food. We're not a restaurant with the chain. So we don't get some of the discounts everybody else gets. Those are some of the tools we're trying to put in place so we can do better. But it's going to be difficult because there's, like Leif said, there is a cost to doing business. You can't keep going in the hole. You got to be able to cover your cost. So and I think the answer was we agreed to subsidize some of the things that you were concerned about, Heidi. So I think that happened already.
One of the things too, to keep in mind is the Finance Committee has come up with a budget based on past history, not aspirational numbers. The present budget that we are under right now is aspirational numbers, which has not been working well. So a change of that is good possibility to happen in the future. However, we're still stuck in this particular year until April 30th with what we have now.
Anyone else on this question?
Oh, I can't let that statement go unchecked. At this past year's board and finance and planning committee, the word or the phrase non-aspirational was used repeatedly. We took out the equestrian center will break even if they do 100 trail rides a month. Well, you know what? They can't do 100 trail rides a month, so don't sign them up for doing 100 trail rides a month. So we tried to the best of our ability. Tom was sitting right there, as well as other people who are in the audience. We really tried to drive that home to the managers this year. I think the next step is a logical one, which is to say, okay, you came back and thought this was the best you could do without any aspirations, and here's the numbers that you actually hit. Now, those are going to become your numbers going forward in the next budget year. And I think that that is a good next step. But we didn't go into this budget year trying to, with hopes and dreams. We tried to take as much of that out as we possibly could. But it's a manager's ultimate decision on what they think they can deliver.
All right, now I need to respond because I was named. The Finance Committee last year, I would agree with Leif that the aspirational aspect of the current fiscal year budget that was approved last year, there was an effort to curb the aspirational aspects of it, because I don't even think it was real. I think it was a tool. So that was pared down. The problem is that the board, having oversight responsibility of management has failed time and time again to keep these amenities on budget. And the board has failed to hold management to task for that. That's not an indictment of any one person, but it is a fact. So yes, this year, the Finance Committee took it a step forward, and we suggested that the budget not even be allowed any aspirations at all, that it simply take what the amenities were actually able to prove they could do. And that was the budget. Leif eventually came around to that, and thank you for that, but he didn't start out there. So there is that, and I appreciate his vote in the affirmative.
Any other rebuttal? Thank you.
I do want to say that both the club and Fairways are close to hitting their budget numbers this month. Very close.
Awesome. All right, we'll go to Daniela's question on Zoom.
Hello?
You're fine. We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ann McKinney, and I am in section 6, lot 131. I just want to, my husband and I moved here in 2019. And this is about the clubhouse and the fairways. We were active participants in attending meals and stuff at the clubhouse. The menu was perfect. It was fantastic. It was family oriented. Whenever we went, and we would go 2 and 3 times a week, and the menu was good. You saw lots of families there. It was a very enjoyable place to go. The Fairways, same thing. I do have to say, the Fairways they are doing fantastic. We go to trivia night on Wednesdays. Their menu is finally up and running, and they're doing a fantastic job. The Clubhouse, however, they changed the menu, and it's not family friendly. It is not an enjoyable menu for families who are trying to turn around and be families, take their kids and enjoy the atmosphere. Something, in my opinion, you need to go back to a simpler menu. You need to go back to being family oriented. You need to, like Tracy said, have game nights, have whoever said wing night, pizza night, hamburger night, taco night, any of that, and be open more often. It's just not fair to cater, in my opinion. It's not. It looks like you're catering to a simple, a less. Oh, and how do I say it without being offensive? I don't want to be offensive, but you're catering to a special few and not to the entire menu or the entire members. And that's just what I want to have to say. And I thank you all. I thank you all for all being here and being willing to give the time and the energy that is going to be needed to get our community back to where it was. Thank you very much.
And I would agree with you. And we used to go to the Clubhouse much, much more, and it was a more diverse menu. I do like the new menu at Fairways. It's very family friendly. And now I take my family there instead of going to the Clubhouse when they are here.
You're right.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll do it quickly. That I think they're trying to appeal to people that are to bring banquets in and to bring weddings in and to bring things like that in, which do make money, but that's not necessarily who the community is. And I think that's what we've lost at the Clubhouse. I won't say it's trying to be high end, because somebody pointed out to me they'd spend a whole lot less money going to a very expensive French restaurant in Fredericksburg than they would at the Clubhouse. But they are coming up with different ideas, and the wine night, the Valentine's thing, whatever. But we need to have it fit our community. And I think that's where right now we're not in sync.
Right. And maybe has anybody come up with a thought of maybe having a banquet menu or, a different menu kind of set aside for that? And I mean, that would serve both purposes.
So those things are being discussed right now in the ad hoc committee, and they're looking at both those things, both a second menu that's more towards a bistro type of thing, and then a more higher end menu. So they're looking at that for lunch versus dinner. So all those things are being considered within that ad hoc committee.
I didn't see anything wrong with the menu that you had before when we first moved here. You had a very diverse menu. It was very, very good. I mean, we brought families. It was. So I really miss it. So I miss going to the Clubhouse.
The food and beverage director is looking at seasonal menus, so it's not going to be the same menu all the time.
The one thing I think I would remind everybody is that we actually have a Clubhouse committee. And if you have ideas and you want things to be different, it was the Clubhouse committee who was part of the genesis for the look and feel of the refresh. There were things that needed to be done that, had to be taken care of, but the people doing it didn't pick out the paint, and they didn't pick out the light fixtures, and that stuff came from the committee. So if you have ideas of how you want that Clubhouse to function, the Clubhouse committee is a great place. I've written about that and asked younger people to participate. I think we had in one meeting, one young lady came and provided some feedback. But that committee exists. The same structure exists over at Fairways, and that committee seems to be very well engaged with the Fairways staff and their leadership and making changes and coming back around to what it is the community wants. So please engage with the clubhouse committee and let them know what you want and what's not working for you. This does not all come out of the mind of the food and beverage director. There is a committee chartered to support him.
I agree with Leif. So our problem, I think, in this whole communication process is that we have an echo chamber. And everyone who is in the process of making suggestions of what would make the club better are people who already, for the most part, are enjoying the club. That's the echo chamber. Our problem is that we can't get much input outside that echo chamber. And that goes back to a communication problem. Darcy has some great ideas about how to improve that. But until we can, and then that communication problem solves a whole host of other issues. So this is all the same problem. And that's that there's only a small group of people who get involved and talk. And that's probably because we don't know how to reach out outside of our peer group.
I'm Christy McManus from Section 2, Lot 412. It's my first time attending one of these. And I'm going to say a simple question, but it's probably not. It's an observation of listening to other people. And what I'm hearing tonight, it seems like we're setting ourselves up for the clubhouse to compete with the Fairways. Because you want family, simple, cheap menus, which you're doing at the Fairways, but now you want them at the clubhouse too. So that's going to cause the two to compete with each other. And how do you deal with that?
Already happened.
Well, I'll see if I can take that on a little bit. Obviously there are two different venues. One is more focused on the golf course, so there's some ties there. But everybody keeps on saying that the menu at the club is kind of high end, but when I go there, I get a cheeseburger. When I go there, there's a bunch of other stuff on the menu that's not high end. So I'm a little bit confused when people keep on saying that. And the hamburgers are great. So if you're looking for a family meal, it's there. So I don't think you can stop the competition. It's going to happen regardless. So unless we want to close down one of the restaurants, and I don't think we want to do that.
I tend to disagree that they're in competition. I think there are enough people in the community to frequent both. And I enjoy that there are two options. And if I go to Fairways, I'm more casual. Maybe it's after playing golf. I don't worry about going home and taking a shower after golf. And I'm going to eat. I'm going to want a cheeseburger or something like that. When I go to the clubhouse, I do, dress up and anticipate a nice leisurely dinner. And I don't think there's anything wrong with offering both those options to people in the community. 4,000 homes, we should be able to manage both restaurants, and they appeal to different people. They appeal to some of us for both occasions. But I think I like that there are two options and that there are two kind of different expectations when you go to them.
There are figures that have come out of the restaurants that say that only 1% of the population uses the clubhouse. So if you go, you tend to run into the same people. And there's 4% of the population that uses Fairways. So that's something we really, really need to fix. even if the clubhouse was 10% of the population, that's not enough to sustain any kind of menu and use it wisely. So there's bigger, excuse me, than other communities. I don't know the comparison to other communities. I know that we are often looked at in comparison to Lake Monticello, and they've actually closed their clubhouse. They use it for events, but then they have then taken their, what we call our fairways, they have taken that and it is now privately sourced to a specific restaurateur in the Lake Monticello area. So they've been through some of the pains we're going through now.
So one of the things that I think has really improved in our clubhouse operations are the special events. The things like Veterans Day, Valentine's Day, the wine tasting that we had, family pizza night, or excuse me, pasta night. Collectively, they've been trying to do different events. And I think almost every one of those has sold out or damn near sold out very quickly, right? So those are working well. I heard just recently someone posted online about a wedding that was held there and that they had an absolutely wonderful experience. In my column, for those of you who didn't read it, I kind of started off with a definition of what an amenity is. And the bottom line is it's something that's for the enjoyment of the population that uses it. And we have a very diverse population. You have some folks that want us to put a pizza oven in over at the clubhouse, but the same people also want to have a very nice, and I believe the way their pricing works, profitable wedding there or a celebration of life. So there are other demands that this community has for the use of that facility. And I would hate to see it shuttered. I would love it to be of more value to our membership. We've done surveys. When Borders came in here, I think we did something on the order of maybe 14 different sensing sessions. More people wanted to get in those than we could accommodate. We've done a lot to try and get the community's input, yet we're still not seeing people want to come in on a regular basis, and we've got to find a way to fix that.
Anyone else on that question?
So I will just add this. I don't think that they need to be the same. I think that we need to play with the hours. And I don't know exactly what the hours, I think that you commented, Tracy, that the hours at the fairways are even always changing. So, and I know that there's a couple of days during the week that the clubhouse is not open, but also personally for me, my husband and I got married last September and I was looking to have my wedding here and it was not obtainable for us to have a wedding here. And I live here and have lived here for 10 years as a homeowner. No, I don't live on the lake. I don't have a bunch of money. I'm not rich. But I had to do it in a budget friendly. And I wish that the community I live in and help subsidize this building, I wish that they would have subsidized the cost for a member in the community to be able to utilize it. But it also just kind of wasn't set up. I maybe would have been able to swing for the venue, but then I was limited to only using them for catering and they only offered 3 options, none of which I cared for. So it was not a good setup, which meant they lost money in September and Wolf Trap Farm in Gordonsville got our money and we had a wonderful wedding, but it was inconvenient and a little disappointing that we weren't able to utilize that. So there do need to be some changes.
I'll just clarify that. And I think Pete or a couple other folks in the audience can keep me honest, but I believe that for a member, the wedding or something like that is discounted by 50%. Right. So, I mean, it's heavily discounted for the member here.
Not evident on the website when I was looking into it. So maybe that's an issue as well.
Anyone else on that topic? All right. Karen has one in the back and then we have one here.
Mine's not on the topic of the restaurants here. Mine was going back to the budget. My name is Barbara Tomeko. I'm in Section 3, Lot 135. I'm an accountant. I've done both public and private accounting in the nonprofit world. So when you talked budget, my brain goes. You said that they have budgets, but they go over their budgets. So what's done when they go over their budgets? You just go, oh, well. My question.
Yes. That's what's happened. I mean,
That's
I'd love to
not-
sugarcoat that for you, but that's been the finance committee's frustration. Is that we watch the budget. We see the trend, we set up the alarms, and the amenity hits its budget and then exceeds it and keeps going. And
Okay.
there's really no, I mean, there's lots of talk, so I don't want to say that there's nothing. I mean, meetings are held, committees are formed, but there's nothing done to actually stop the spending.
So when these people, just hold on one second, I've been waiting a long time for this question. So when they go over their budget, what is done, like does anybody monitor their spending? Do they have to get approval on their spending? I mean, because they're going over their budget, that means they're spending more than they're supposed to be spending. So who's approving the spending that's happening to go over budget?
I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, since I actually do know what's going on around here. Okay, so the question is, if a department goes over budget, then they are restricted. We take a look at their budget to determine how they can reduce their spending so they can try and get back in alignment with their budget. Here are some of the challenges as an example, and I'll use equestrian. Let's just say equestrian's over budget because this month they couldn't have a horse show that was budgeted for because it got rained out and they can't get another date because they're all taken up by the Virginia Horse Show Association, other members. Do we close the equestrian center? Do we fire the manager? It's kind of the same way with food and beverage. You know, these are amenities. They are designed to be here for everyone. And the challenge is we have a challenge in maintaining our staff. So coming from the commercial world, if I, as a CIO, blew my budget for 2 or 3, months in a row, my CEO might have a conversation with me about whether or not this is the right place for me to be. We don't have the capability of having that same level of conversation with our staff here in all cases, because it is very challenging for us to recruit and retain staff here. We do look at departmental budgets every month, and they do look to see what corrections can be made to try and bring a department's budget into alignment. And we've been trying to increase the rigor on doing that year after year since I've been on the board. It's not perfect. It's not where it ought to be, but we do have some realistic constraints within which we have to be able to function, and we can hold people accountable within certain bounds. If it's tremendously egregious, then yes, we would have some other kinds of recourses, but we do have to try and keep the lights on and the doors open here and managing the budget to the best of our capabilities.
Any other answer? All right, we have a question here.
My name is Rick Rave. I'm Section 3, 188. I've been here since 1978. We have an outstanding community. I love my neighbors, but I'm a common sense person. I was a teacher for 35 years. And I'm looking at things going on and I have to laugh. I mean, honestly, it's almost a joke. We're losing millions and millions of dollars at our clubhouse. It's not like 100,000 or 10,000, it's millions. What could we do with that millions of dollars? My family's, like I said, been here since 78. We've gone to the club. We used to use fairways all the time. We don't anymore. And that's a shame. I mean, maybe it's us, I don't know, but it's ridiculous. No one takes responsibility. We've had thousands upon thousands of dollars fraudulently taken from us. Nobody takes responsibility. We have a clubhouse that's going down the tubes. Nobody takes responsibility. You know, we can blame all of us for not going there, but it's like saying, you know, I don't go to Two Brothers because I don't like them. You know, am I responsibility if they go bad? And again, we have a beautiful clubhouse, but just common sense. When the roof is put on and then 5 years later, you put a new roof on, I'm sitting here saying, what would I do as a homeowner if my roof didn't last more than 5 years? I would sue the roofer, or I would do something. We don't do it. Now, again, I want to thank all of you that are running for the board. We have wonderful people in this community. We have talented people, and that's what we need. And I have to make an exception. We don't need old people from the board running because you didn't do a great job.
You're not sitting up here with me.
I tell you the truth. I tried twice to run. Now, you may not even remember the Brown family, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Anyway, I tried to run twice. We had a committee that picked candidates. And Mrs. Brown picked her husband, not me. You know, it was that type of, you know, we've done that. And that's politics, I know that. And again, I want nothing, I would like to go to the clubhouse. I'd sit there at the clubhouse and look out and say, this is the most beautiful place to have a restaurant. You can't imagine how beautiful. And yet it's run terribly. A 3-year-old could run it better.
Was there a question there?
Or just a rant?
Or responsibility for all the mistakes that you made. Do we have anybody that's gonna stand up and say, yeah, I did it, I made a bad decision. We shouldn't have done it.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Mr. Ray, I appreciate your honesty and your emotions, and you have every right to feel your emotions of how you feel, especially being here for so long. So you've seen a lot of differences. I would have to say that there has been a severe lack of accountability in many areas, and it has to stop. And apparently, if I'm understanding this correctly, when we are placed in our chairs on the board, we all become liaisons to different amenities. And I think that the person who was the liaison for said amenity should be being held accountable, and owning it and not covering it up, not making excuses. That doesn't change anything. And we're going to have some real harsh changes to get things on track.
Go ahead, TC.
So I appreciate your comments, but truthfully, I was on a bunch of the committees, ECC, finance, and then now on the board. There are people taking responsibility. There are people holding the staff accountable. Those things are happening. Are they happening fast enough for you? Probably not. But like I said, these things are happening. They're moving. We're talking to the food and beverage people. We're trying to fix it. We're looking at outsourcing. These things aren't going to happen today. They're going to take time to fix. It took a while for them to get the way they are now, but it's not every year. If you go back, how long ago did we start losing money? The previous board talked about that. So all I'm saying is, I think when you say those things, people hear you and everybody believes it. And that's not true. That's not what's really happening. People are taking responsibility and they're holding people responsible. That's why we're looking for a new general manager. So that's happening. So those things, when you say that, it's not necessarily true. And I would appreciate it if that didn't go out to the public like that, because it's not true. People are working hard. All the committees are working hard. Everybody's trying to make this community better. And that's all I want to do is make it better. That's on my sign.
I'll just give you an example. And I probably quoted these figures before. 2021, there was a operating cash surplus of 328,000. 300 was applied to the 21-22 budget to reduce the member assessment. That money wasn't reinvested in things that weren't being done right here or stuff that needed to be repaired or replaced. It was used to artificially lower the assessment that people had to pay, right? 22, let's see, it was in 22, I believe it looks like an operating cash surplus of 201,000 applied to the 22-23 budget to reduce the member assessment. So there have been a lot of years where this community has had operating cash surpluses that could have been reinvested and they weren't. You know, the board that I've been on has kind of ended up at the end of the gravy train. There's no more $800,000 a year in NCR fees being put into this community through the sale and development of properties. Costs have gone up. We've been doing a lot to try and get costs under control, bringing in outside consultants to look at our operations, to give us advice, bringing in a new audit partner. When you talk about financial issues, that was a long time ago, and that was addressed. There've been 2 3-year terms with a different audit firm that went through and did not find any financial irregularities. And I'm with TC. When you stand up and say things that, you know, people want to take as gospel, that's not the case. And that's a long time to not end up getting on the board.
Would another candidate want to address that question? All right, we have another one on Zoom, I believe, and that will probably be the last one.
Go ahead.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Cliff Wilkes, Section 7, Lot 58. Other communities for their clubhouse have a fee that everyone has to pay on a yearly basis. We've not had that in this community, nor should we have a uniform fee that everyone pays. That's like an assessment. But you're allowed to charge fees to people based on other reasons. And we do that already with boat motors. Depending on the size of your motor, you have to pay a different fee for your tag, excuse me. I think that we should look at, maybe not this year, but maybe the community ought to look at a tiered fee system based on property values to subsidize the clubhouse. Because this community is the only audience that the clubhouse has. So it's hamstrung from the word go. Just think about it. I'm not asking you to agree with it. I've already heard Leaf say that you're not going to do that, but you need to think about it. And it needs to be tiered, and you're allowed to do that under the statute. That's all I have to say. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Thank you.
Does anyone choose to? All right. Well, it's almost 4 o'clock and that's our allotted time. I want to thank Daniela and Ron for their help putting all of this together. And I want to thank all the candidates for another wonderful session of questions and answers. And on behalf of the nominating, oh, sure. Yeah, that's what I was going to do. On Sunday, the candidates themselves are putting on a forum at here, right? Here in the community center. Sunday, 3 to 5, is that correct? So please come back on Sunday and we'll hear more good stuff.
It's going to be a different format, so come, even though you've been here. there'll be other kinds of opportunities to engage with the candidates.